That is how we define MNM. When they get the leads, they should win the game, but they don't. And they're facing versus Dusty. They're aware of that, so they might use that as an opportunity for Dusty.
That's actually really interesting, because MNM and Spring, obviously, again, very different roster, also had this identity of they get ahead, and they're really good at snowballing. Of course, that was through Royal Cannon and Canna back then. That was very different. But to see them, we've seen this a couple of times now with teams, even like Riddle, right? Being able to take something from Spring and still managing to keep an identity somehow with completely different players.
I don't know about both of these teams, how are they going to fare against each other right now, because both of them have some very good early aggression, both of them have good mid game, but in late game, sometimes both of them can be pretty shaky. So I don't know, is it going to be who is less shaky in the late game, or do we not get into the late game at all for both of them? I don't know.
I would like to bring what you talked about on that little game that we did about MNM. You picked MNM, and if there's a team that they need to defeat in order to get into playoffs, it is Dusty. It's a complicated game for MNM, I would say, but when there's a will, there's a way. In what way would MNM win versus Dusty?
Why it's so difficult is because they have to beat Dusty. They have to beat so many teams, though, to start making that climb. Even halfway into the split, you have to be a little bit doom and gloom on this.
But this game specifically,
this game specifically, looking at this, I feel like bot lane is where it has to come to a head. I was wondering between that and top lane, because actually you've got like Kerberos and you've got Caleb, and actually both of them be very important. But I think particularly in bot lane, when you have a strength facing up against a strength, tends to clash quite violently. Both of these bot lane players have played a couple of mages. I wonder if some of them will choose to opt out of their heavier Chemera lanes like MNM have been playing, or something like that. But I'm wondering how both these teams are then going to have to organize these two AD carries, which have typically been big engines for their team.
And I feel like Mishigo, if I use your words, the big engine, definitely this is the man, because he can be unstoppable if the whole team just groups around him, and if they allow him to be grown into a hyper carry later on, he can actually carry the whole team on his shoulders. So I feel like Mishigo here is a very big enabler for his team. I will have my eyes set on him.
We had a few interviews with Mishigo throughout the spring split, and he kept talking about it. If I get the protection that I feel like I need, I can pop off. I can do it. But they also need to play as a team, and Devoxne was talking about that.
The counterpoint, do you need to have protection if you play Ziggs and you just throw your abilities, and it doesn't matter if you die after that point?
You play Adi. I'm confused about your points, though.
Hey, my champion sometimes lives when I do that. Very occasionally.
That's why you always build a Magi.
That's me. I'm just there to live. But I do look at both these AD carries, and you know, the hyper carry point is very interesting that you brought up, because actually when Mishigo's been very strong for me, it's actually been a lot when they have been going to stuff like Seraphine. Well, actually that's more like Den's Voxley's been playing that, but like the Ziggs, again, just been mentioning that. But so they have some options outside of what you might consider more ordinary from them as well. So this is really hard to predict in a lot of ways.
Hey, what about we jump into Champion Select and see for ourselves what is going to happen today? It's going to be MNM versus Dusty. Dusty taking upon the blue side of the spectrum of this game. Corki has been jumping and flying into our screens yet again. I'm glad he's out.
Yes.
What else should be out?
Yes. Oh my God. Udyr, please. No Corki and no Udyr, and then I'll be very happy.
Nobody's going to pick Udyr.
I like how we're all in serious mode. We all lean forward. The red lights hit the desk, and suddenly Corki's off the table. We're serious now in the NLC. And seeing the Zeri band away as well, very important. I think we've seen a lot of different teams prioritizing that as a first pick. Not every team has the best answers to it. I know that XL and the LEC typically have been letting people pick the Zeri and going, go on then. See what happens with that. Of course, the Ultra League 2, Go Rogue had their own very good answer into that series. So have to see, of course, what the power picks are going to get through now, because we're seeing some other picks, which, I mean, there are just too many things to ban away in this first round.
Jungle. I need to see some jungle bans, to be honest, because jungle can be such a good enabler for the early aggression, and then to later on actually have these hyper carry if we go with this strategy for MNM. So I want to see something that will enable this early game either banned out or actually picked by MNM. And I'm thinking about Volibear is my first pick here. Wukong is still very ridiculously strong in jungle, but Volibear can be a slightly better maybe enabler in some cases.
In some cases, yeah. I think that Volibear is like, Wukong's not going to dive you, really. Yeah. Volibear does.
Exactly.
That's where it's that's where it's dangerous, right? But I was speaking, because actually I had a big talk on jungle kind of matchups with Torek, coach of JDXL, and he was talking about how Wukong at least functions into everything, so that one's, again, pretty good as a first pick. You can just say, look, Wukong will always be useful. Sometimes a Volibear you don't get those early dives off and your mid game isn't quite as precise as you'd like to, particularly when you're not dealing with your undefeated or your top 2-3 teams. Maybe it's just higher reliability to pick something more like the Wukong, which you know is just always going to bring value.
This is a vision into the late game as we see MNM picking the Seraphine, picking up the Viego. We don't know where the Sera is going to go. Either she go mid, she can go support, or it could be Meshigo. And we were talking that they need Meshigo on a hyper carry if it's Seraphine.
Well, it's a hyper carry in a different way.
What do you mean?
Well, no, so for instance, like... Stop it. Something like a Seraphine it will carry in the sense that you can't kill their teammates in late game, and that's where enchanters become very late game. It's a very abstract kind of way of talking about it. You carry a team by still making you win, it's just not by doing damage. But on the other side, though, Nautilus Tristana, there's your damage.
Yeah, that's your damage, and that's your lane aggression, trying to be the lane bullies, potentially. We don't see Tristana that much after the durability patch, because usually the idea with Tristana on the lane, you take her, you take the very early kills, and you bully the game from there on. Now it's not that easy anymore, but after the nerfs for the towers, it's still kind of possible.
So that's kind of interesting, because I actually think we've been seeing more Tristana because of a really weird thing, because the supports which she hates aren't there anymore. Because like before it was like, going into Leona and Alice, you're like, well, this is awful. And now it's like, well, they're harder to kill, but no one's stopping me killing you. So that ends up being kind of interesting in that own way. So that was my take on it. But now you have to play into that Galio. We get to see what happens when, well, I'll be playing into that Galio. There's a chance the Galio support. I'll just throw that out there.
What if I threw you another one, and we do have the Galio on the mid lane for Chemera because he likes the Galio, and we have backland with the Tristana, and this is a flex.
That is our old school counter. So, well, I say old school counter. Yeah, it kind of is an old school counter at this point. Now, I think back to actually a very memorable season for me. So the first season which I started casting was season 10. And over in Vietnam, there was a player there who has currently the world's record for solo kills in a single season, who would play Tristana like every other game. And he'd play it into Galio. And he'd just go there and it's like, well, you can't play this lane. Yeah. It was a really big pick even back then. And coming back into it now, yeah, I think that's very much an option. I wonder if MNM have to be aware of not just their own flex potential, but on the other side too.
But then if you take Tristana to the mid lane and you already have Wukong to the jungle, you still need some very good AP damage in your team. So where do you take it? You can take it to the top lane because I think that Gwen, for example, is still available, so you could go into that. Or you could answer that potential Seraphine on the bot lane with something AP on the bot lane as well.
But then if you're looking towards bot lane, you're normally looking at Seraphine, it's already been taken, Veigar has already been banned. So what actually have you got left on the table to bring into that bot lane? In terms of what's normally been played down there, you're seeing much less...
Oh
actually,
no!
You know what, actually,
it's a possibility.
It is a possibility. Anyway, we'll throw this to the table. Of course, it might just be easy to just start a bot at this point and see what's happening. And then there's plenty of things which deal okay into Galio in that mid lane too. So it's not like Tristana is like the only counter out there.
That's why they're going to remove the Silas immediately, so you don't get the follow-up that you want.
That one's nasty.
Camille as well, GP, the top lane, Kerberos special as well. We could see the Darius on the top side, regardless if it's AD or true damage, you don't care. It's Darius, it's Kerberos, it's a menace to actually fight that one. As we do get an opening, if this locks in,
on both sides, right?
That's a lot of AP.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's at least teasing it right. So with the Victor locked in, we expect now this to be Seraphine, Galio, bot lane. At this point, and for me, we were talking about the Galio into the Tristana in the mid lane. Actually, in bot lane, this is the problem I was talking about in terms of before the durability patch, when you saw way more Leona, way more tank supports, Tristana didn't always want to be jumping in on that tank support because you get CC'd up and just kind of die, right? Seraphine doesn't threaten you in that same way, but Galio as a support can really stunt a lot of those engages. So I'm now very interested in going down towards this bot lane and saying, how well is this 2v2 playing out? Because I can see it going multiple ways.
Me too. I can see it going very well for MNM actually, because they will have the range thanks to Seraphine, and they will have the possibilities, as you said, to put something against the Tristana engage with the Galio. On the other hand, I don't know. I'm not so sure, to be honest.
It did not is a blindable pick. We heard Shikari talking about that. It's normal right now. You don't get dive as much because of the durability patch. You feel comfortable. That's why Kerberos is going to take that one. So, nah, this cannot. No, don't even, because you have way too much AP.
Is that an ADRE top?
Oh my, save me from this one.
I mean, it's okay.
They need AD.
They need it from somewhere, and I'm wondering, well, I mean, Camille's already banned, GP's already banned. I think Dusty really hit a lot of the primary options you'd have at that point. Kalen was a huge player of that GP as well, and it's going to be the Aatrox. From what I was hearing in terms of Scrim Whispers, Aatrox is the best of the kind of the fighter bruisers that's been remaining. Gore Drinker is now very, very good on him. And I look at what MNM have put together, and we could actually see this very early in, because you saw the Wukong, they immediately locked in Seraphine, Viego, and they said, well, that's anti-dive, and Wukong's going to dive on us. And then Dusty were like, aha, but what if we pick more dive? So they picked in dive bot lane. Then you've got the Gnar, which is going to do the same. Everything that MNM does is really good against people funneling into them. If it's into a Seraphine ult, if it's into a Gore Drinker, world-ending Aatrox, MNM, I think, have got a really solid composition to deal with what Dusty do if they don't land their engage well.
They want to have safe lanes. MNM definitely want to have safe laning here. They want to just try to get to late game because with Viego, with Seraphine, you want to wait a little bit. Dusty need to do exactly the opposite. And they have possibilities with the divings, with the Wukong. They can try to push for that early aggression and try to shut down that safe laning possibility.
The era of rematches starts now on the Summer Split, second half of it. So without further ado, it's time for the casters to take over. Hip Rain, Trouble, let's go.
Let's go indeed. We're getting ready to go into our first game of the day. We're beyond that halfway point now. All the teams are rematching each other. And I think speaking of rematches, this one's interesting because Trouble raised a good point to me. The kind of roles have swapped going into this game coming out of Champ Select.
Huge swap arena. If you guys remember, obviously this was the game that was played on the first day of the Summer Split. And when these guys faced each other, it was then Voxnay on Soraka duty. And it was MNM playing full offense with Wukongs, with Nautiluses. The Galio was into Chemera's hands back then, and Mizuko, of course, on his infamous Samira. So MNM was in full offense mode. Dusty was in full defense mode. Now the roles have been swapped. The Seraphine is going bot lane instead of the Soraka this time, but for MNM, which is not something that I necessarily expected because we know that a lot of the early game from MNM comes from their bot lane, and now sort of handicapping Mizuko and Shredder to stay in lane. I'd like to keep our eyes down there because they're also against the Tristana, and that's very dangerous to play against.
Yeah, it's going to be a very dangerous one. I am buzzing to get onto the Rift and see how this game's going to go down. Now we've had that swap in the champs, well, the play style of the teams. And I think the key thing about MNM is they should have won more games than they have. They have been a team who are historically
Bottom
unlucky, let's say. I mean, it's not unlucky. They throw. I think that there's no beating around the bush at this point. They have been throwing their games. Trouble, what are they doing? Why are they throwing so many games at the moment?
So, MNM threw 3 games in a row that they were massively in the lead. They had Barons, they had Dragons, they had Souls, they had everything they needed to close it out. I feel what MNM don't necessarily have completely under control is their vision and how they want to siege after they have the extra levels, after they have the extra items, which results in games being dragged out so much to the point where you might make one mistake. You can get one mistake per game, but if you make it that far into the game and the death timer shows 50 or 60 seconds, you leave your team alone 4 versus X. So it's very difficult to defend that status, and a lot of the teams have turned it around on them after cashing on a bunch of shutdowns as well.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I'm a bit of a LeBlanc advocate. I think I've made that very, you're the Katarina person.
What does it say here? I hate LeBlanc.
I had to write that in a note to her. I hate LeBlanc at the moment. I especially don't like LeBlanc into this team. You're jumping into a Seraphine. You're jumping in to a Galio. You're jumping into a lot of anti-dive, and that was kind of hit on the desk. But LeBlanc, I also feel at the moment, with the durability patch, I think she's a little lackluster, kind of lacking to be able to 100 to 0 someone, unless either you're Mega Fed, in which case, you know, you're a Mega Fed assassin.
Welcome to my life, fellow assassin enjoyer.
I know, me and you currently are suffering, but you're getting changes, I'm not. I'm curious to see what the build's going to be. I was kind of theory crafting on the mirror on Monday about LeBlanc builds and ways to pull her out. Obviously, Ludens is still an option. I actually don't mind the Everfrost build at the moment. I also really like the idea of potentially going second into something like a Cosmic Drive. Now, I haven't really spoken to too many LeBlanc players to see what they're picking up at the moment, but because you can't really kill someone in a full rotation on LeBlanc, I kind of like the idea of kind of going, all right, let's go ability haste here and just get your rotation up as much and as frequently as possible.
The reason why I also like this is the fact that a lot of times when you pick anti-dive and heavy scaling champions, look at them. They're all extremely mobile.
Yeah.
The Victor, the Seraphine, they're very immobile, which means that later on, Buckland can jump in with the Everfrost, lock them in place, and by the time the R comes out, I'm just going to stop here because it feels like Dusty are sitting on a ward
Yeah, they are caught by the beat drop as it does come down, but Backline's also making their way over, and MNM are just being bullied off their blue buff. Soft gonna throw down a quick shroud to get invisible, but he is not gonna be able to get that blue, and that is a nice little pickup there as Linker steals it away. Dusty using their priority and their pressure in bot and mid to rotate that in to deny Soft hard.
You guys remember Reckless? You guys remember when Reckless was playing in G2? You guys when Reckless was playing in G2, playing Tristana constantly? That was the Yanko special move right there. With Tristana, you've got perma prior towards the bot side of the map, so you can bleed your pressure, invade, and bring your bot lane with you. Now Sof, of course, has to go towards the top side of the map to go for the Scuttle Crab. Linkas has left his bot side of the map completely, taking this away from Sof as well. Linkas doesn't have his smite.
Oh no, Soft, you pressed the wrong button, man! Oh, that is the saddest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, he's gonna chase him.
Is chasing him down. Soft should be able to get away. Oh.
So far, I feel like Dusty have done so well in tracking where Soft will be. And the fact that this Viego is right now missing Flash is just so difficult to just stand your ground into your jungle. Kerberos is also Mega Knight, just turned mini, but Chemera is first and Backline is stuck in mid lane.
Yeah, Backline is now rotating over as they're just trying to share the last of this camp. Laserbeam goes a little bit wide. Kerb does eat himself everything, basically. The Infernal Chains go down. And MNM are able to get a little something. They don't get too much more as Backline actually comes over the wall. Remember, Soft has no flash. He has no ignite. The Sigil of Manus will pop. And Backline will find first blood.
And I was about to say, I think Dusty are wasting their time right now because mid lane wave is not shoved, top lane wave is not shoved, and they're both fighting over golems. And at the end of the day, Soft managed to actually smite his own golem and take it away. But the fact that Backline does take Soft's life away, that mispress on the flash instead of the smite, losing Soft his flash, lost him his life as well. And not only that, this is LeBlanc now in the mid lane, which is gonna shove in that wave.
Yeah.
Back has so much gold into the pocket, and yes, their ability paths hits, but when you get that first blood super early into the game, you can actually utilize these extra items. Backline, they'll just use his W.
Yeah, he's in a whole lot of hurt here. Has still got flash, but the taunt's going to connect, and Soft's coming in as well. Backline needs to get over the wall. Can flash away if he needs to, but I think he's just accepting his demise. Down he goes as Chemera will pick him up. A beautiful pick there, and a great rotation from Shredder. Kind of want to swing it back to Soft a little bit. The reason he misflashed is because he has his flash on the lesser key. The superior is D for flash.
That is true. I think I have mine on D. Yeah.
You have to think
they
about
say
it.
F for flash, and I'm like, I never have my flash on F.
Oh.
Where do you have your flash, Twitch chat? D or F?
And I only care if it's on D. Actually, if you're F a flasher, your opinion doesn't matter. Actually, Dusty, they want to try and stop this dragon. They're able to find a good hook here from Stend as Shredder has been caught out. They get a two-man tour out though, and then Foxy jumps into the beat drop. Linkus chases forward as he finds himself a kill. Now Chemera, he's jumped onto, has to put the gravity field down to keep himself alive as he flashes away. Den Foxy's trying to chase for a little bit more, but Soft keeping the pressure up, but he does not have that flash. So Backland finds his second kill. The dragon for Dusty, the kills for Dusty, and MNM are falling apart, and we're only 6 minutes in.
And they're using that bot lane prio so well from the side of Dusty. Yet again, Tristana will always have that prio. You will be able to shove in that wave, be first into the river. Soft starts a dragon. It's not actually his. Remember, Soft does not have his flash available. And right now it's Backland with a blasting wand in his inventory. That LeBlanc hurts so much. Everyone is level 4 and level 3.
Oh, he's going for it. He went in, he's got the sigil, the pop's gonna land, waiting for that W to come up in 5 seconds time, and he will be able to finish up this kill. No ignite, but Chemera has no summoner spells, so all he can do is waddle away. I said I didn't like the LeBlanc if she didn't get fed. This is a fed LeBlanc.
All right, but this is Backland's LeBlanc every single time. Again, right there, Stend finds a beautiful hook onto Shredder, which means that Shredder has to basically waste, in quotations, his taunt to try and get away, which means you don't have this huge tool for the fights to come. Chemera tries to help there with damage. He has to flash out. Soft gets too deep, missing his flash, and of course, missing go onto that Seraphine. You need a little bit more time to get that Seraphine rolling. You need to have at least your mythic item to start doing a little bit more of that damage. It is just not there yet for MNM, and we mentioned it. It's not an aggressive composition, it's a defensive composition. You need to wait and scale.
What I'm really liking actually about how Dusty are playing this comp out is, you know, we talked quite a lot on the desk, and we've also talked a little bit about how MNM do have tools to deal with this dive. But Dusty aren't diving everyone at once. They're playing it very smart. It's not one at a time. It's just a staggered dive. So you can only catch maybe 1 or 2 people out, and the rest can continue the dive forward. And MNM just run out of tools to handle what Dusty are throwing at them.
I'm going to make it even worse for you if you're an MNM fan. Buckland almost has a Luden's Echo, and we're 8 minutes in. He's about 10 CS up his opponent laner. He's about 2 kills up his opponent laner. And due to that factor, the fact that this LeBlanc in the middle of the map is so strong, allows Linkus to play the map, allows him to move into topside river together with Stend to get that Rift Herald and secure it, could potentially pop it mid lane, then it's so difficult for Chemera to push when he has no tower to shove in the wave. So I feel like Dusty have been playing so well with tracking the jungle, using bot lane prio, bleeding into blue side jungle, using mid lane prio, taking the Herald and Kerberos, just doing Kerberos 1v1 things.
Well, they're going toe-to-toe here. Kalim, though, with the World Ender, has enough sustain to keep this fight going as Curb eats the Darkened Blades. And an easy pickup for Kalim in the top side. He was completely safe and sound, able to get a solo kill for himself. And that is, you know, a glimmer of light here for the side of MNM, because Dusty are just running rings around them.
Excuse you.
Zoff getting jumped onto. Shredder is coming in there. They have themselves the encore. It's going to connect onto Stend. He gets pulled in. Denbox is untouched though, so he gets a buster shot back onto 2. Linkus comes in. Monkey spin. Heartbreaker's thrown down, but Soft Heart is broken as he falls. Denboxney will look for another kill. Gets the reset, gets the kill, and 2 members of MNM fall. No one and Dusty will go down in the meanwhile, and it is just a perfectly execute dive once again by Dusty.
Oh, MNM are trying to pull in a cheeky invade right here, but remember, it's only the top side of the map that has fallen for Dusty. The rest of them are there. Tristana is so strong in the early game. Stand onto the Nautilus, extremely tanky, and you don't have mid lane prio. We mentioned how this LeBlanc is so strong. She's stuck literally in the center of the map, so she can roam first to assist her team. So right now, Dusty are clearly the strongest on the map, and I feel like MNM, I've been so adamant at saying that MNM have a very clear plan. Every single time they go into the game, they know how to execute that plan, and they know the steps they need to take. Yes, they might fumble the execution, but the plan is very clear, and the execution is very clear.
Yes.
This time, I feel like they're failing in the seams. They do not have a very clear plan. The fact that Sof has fallen so far behind is clearly hurting them, because they're trying to pull cards that they cannot play with, and Dusty are throwing the Uno reverse card in their face, which is now a 10-minute Luden's Echo 4-1 LeBlanc.
Not going particularly well on that front. Looks like backline able to pick up a little bit more. Oh, Chemera, he's flashed, he's ignited, he's down. 5-1 on the LeBlanc. Chemera's going to go back to the grey screen once again this game, and this mid is just getting out of hand. I'm
not sure if I'm watching Eminence right here or Backland, because they're both absolute monsters when it comes to the LeBlanc, but Backland here is doing such a great job, and Shredder, that's not your jungle.
Shredder, he's shredded. He is taken down as now Soft takes an electrocute proc and half his health from Backland.
He's 3 levels up. He just hit level 7.
Has he got ult? No, not yet. If Backland had ult, I actually think Soft died there, but Backland just going to get even more gold injected. He's already got that Luden's Echo. Now he's got himself a bunch of plate gold, 11,000 gold, 1,100 gold in his pocket. He's going to get a monstrous base off here as well, and he actually may just look to commit to take a little bit more from this tower, but with all the plate buffs, I think it's going to be a little bit too hard for them to do so. So Dusty going to step away, and as they cool off, pick up this dragon. Should we have a look at some furry friends?
Absolutely. Bring them in.
I'm pressing the button. There we go.
Aww.
That's a cutie. That's a very
big Vanir fan. You know, Kerberos is not a big fan of getting ganked in the top lane, but luckily for him, he's going to turn Mega now. Again, I think the mid lane play was absolutely genius, specifically with the Herald, because once you've taken Chemera out of the equation, means that you do not have enough wave clear, and the Shelly pops up. We mentioned how you do want the Herald in the mid lane, because you want to open that mid lane as fast as possible. That Victor is going to be a nuisance, because she wave clears so much. Seraphine's going to have Giga wave clear later on, so the faster you open up that middle of the map, the easier it will be for you to have your LeBlanc like slithering around the jungle.
I mean, this is the LeBlanc dream right now. You want to, as LeBlanc, you want to be able to open up your lane.
And Medjais, are you happy, Chemera?
I mean, I'm happy. Backline getting the reading in. This is what you want. You're going to take this tower with plate gold as well. That's a lot of money on this LeBlanc. Got obviously that Medjay's, and now you can move around the map more freely, like you were saying. This is what basically every assassin wants,
look at this though.
included. Curb has been cut off, but MNM don't realize Stend and Linkers are here.
I was about to say, they think they're ganking Kerberos, but Kerberos could be ganking them. They're going to find him now.
They are. He's still got himself the Gnar. If they flash in to catch
He's
him
out.
Curb flashes away. Dusty, they had scattered, so it had to be a flash from Curb.
That's 4 members, though, that MNM had to get towards the top side of the map just so they can gank Kerberos. And I get it, right now Kerberos is probably the weakest member, especially when he's Minina. He's very gankable.
Yeah.
He's lost his flash in this situation as well. So maybe try to rinse and repeat. Try to get your Aatrox ahead to hopefully carry you later on together with Seraphine through these team fights, you know, with all the healing and shielding coming through. But right now it feels like this is your only viable play for MNM. You've fallen 5,000 gold behind and you play... Okay. This is a game of spot the Inter and try to get some gold back. And not that Kerberos is inting right here, but because he's the weakest member, they're like, here he is. Gank him, guys.
I've casted Kerberos since the beginning of my career. Kerberos has typically always been a player who's so good at getting ganked. He's so good at absorbing pressure, and even though he's behind, this is what Kerberos has done his entire career. He is someone who is quite happy to play weak side. Obviously, he has those times where, way back in the day, the Triforce Cho'Gath were things that he used to pull out, the Bloodthirster Nasus, like all of this. But realistically, I know Curb as a player who either is a KO player, although he hasn't done that for a very, very long time, or someone who's able to absorb pressure for his team, and his team then make that work. And the biggest thing that I'm loving about this Dusty right now is, yes, Curb has absorbed a little bit of pressure. He has, you know, been on that weak side. But that means Linkers, Backline, Demvoxy have been able to play towards the strengths of the team. And Kalem's going to eat the chains. He's going to eat the double sigil, lose a massive chunk of his health, while everything comes back up for Backland, and Demvoxy will just be able to go up for the dive with Stend. Backland is unstoppable on the LeBlanc.
Poor Stend puts his ultimate onto this Aatrox to make sure he stays away from the range of the tower, but still provides CC for his team. Then Vox and Backland are like, nope, sorry, thanks for your assistance.
They don't know their own damage output yet, unfortunately.
They don't know their limits. Oh.
Well, maybe some limit testing might be coming in. 3 versus 3. Chemera sitting in the bush, not been spotted yet. But they're not going to be able to jump in onto him, and Demvoxy should be fine. He's got cleanse, he's got flash. He's very, very slippery here on this Tristan, and it's going to be a pretty hard person to handle as it looks like the resets are coming in.
Let's look at the state of the map. Mid lane's pushing, top lane's pushing. And now they have actually gotten Kerberos rotated towards the bottom of the map to shove in that wave as well. All MNM had to do from the beginning of the game is literally allow these waves to push into them and just soak them. Get your CS, get your items. Now, what's really personally making me sad is that Misigu is on a Moonstone Seraphine and not on a damaged Seraphine, which hurts your chance of winning even more. At this point, that LeBlanc is so strong that he's not going to care for your heals or your amplified shields through the Moonstone.
Yeah.
He's just going to shred straight through. But if you do have the damage to make a pick onto Dusty, it's going to be so important, right? So you've got Victor skill into the late game. This Seraphine is just unfortunately not going to come online as a carry right now. So it's more of a shield bot and a heal bot. And now you're waiting for Kalem to go to 2 items on his Aatrox to hopefully carry for you.
If I was to look at this, though, from a positive outlook, I would say, you know, you've already got Victor as an AP threat, so at least you've kind of got that. Like you said, the healing and shielding, it's not what you want, but realistically, we see Seraphines pick up Liandry's as their item, and Liandry's doesn't stack, so there's also kind of that to work with as well.
It's fine, there's Ludens,
there is Ludens.
Frost.
But I'm looking at it, I'm playing devil's advocate here, Trouble. I'm looking at it from the positive attitude. Someone needs to look at it for MNM, because right now things are not looking great.
I would look at it from a positive perspective.
If Michigu wasn't dead,
yeah, I would look at it from a positive perspective if this wasn't happening, if that LeBlanc was not 2 levels up on that Seraphine, if the game was even, if the gold was even. But just because Dusty are just so far ahead and we know how decisive they can be, how quickly they can close out games, waiting for your heal bot to scale into the late game, waiting for your only AD consistent damage dealer, which is the Aatrox, to scale into the late game, waiting for your Victor, which is your consistent AP damage,
hold on,
scale into the late game, just doesn't work. you have no damage.
Oh, but Stend's gonna flash in forwards, cancelling out on Shredder's ultimate there with the end of the Cyclone, going for the spin, going for the finish up. Linkus able to jump away as the Chaos Storm will zone out, and Dusty find a cheeky pick onto Soft. It started with the damage onto Backland, but Backland able to survive it. Herald goes down, and this should be a tier 2 in the top side, unless MNM want to push for a little bit more. Shredder has the ultimate, and everybody is coming in. Can they go for this? I don't think they can, so they're just going to have to cool it off. And like you're saying, mid lane, Den Vox needs happy to take tier 2 mid. And this is just a textbook game from Dusty.
Absolutely. There's been constant pressure on the map. There have been at least 2 lanes pushing at once every single time Dusty want to make a play. And I really like what the MNM tried to do right there. But they tried to do it with 2 of their weakest members, which is their level 7 support versus a level 13 LeBlanc and a level 9 jungler versus a level 13 LeBlanc. We're talking 4 and 6 levels different.
Yeah.
So even if you gank up on LeBlanc with 2 members, it still doesn't add up. You do not have the damage to kill. You need at least Aatrox there, you need Victor there, you need somebody with damage in their hands. And right now, MNM are pretty much bleeding from all fronts. As you can see, mid lane was completely taken away. The only outer tower remaining for them is on the bot side of the map, and very soon, there will be Baron spawning in 1 minute.
Oh, Soft, he is just down. Gonna get popped, able to survive for a little bit longer, and it looks like Soft will survive. The big thing as well, kind of from that pick onto Backland, was pre-durability patch.
Still chilling around.
Pre-durability patch, Backland probably could have died there. But with the current patch, the fact that it's level 13 is really big because you get magic and armor based on your levels. It scales with more and more levels. So levels are even more important.
I'm just saying, talking about levels, he's 6 levels up on his support.
Exactly, exactly. So Backland is deceptively tanky. A couple of patches ago, yes, that LeBlanc may have had to below, but summon a spell, may have just gone down through the CC, but with all of the added resistances that you do get, this is the one time where LeBlanc probably quite happy about the durability patch.
Oh my god. He's almost 4,000 gold up. Look at bot lane, 3,000 gold up. This is absolutely absurd.
I mean, Backland is the majority of the gold lead for Dusty right now. Got the Shadow Flame, got the Medjai's, got the Luden's Echo, got the Pen Boots.
I love this.
So strong.
I love the pivot into the Shadow Flame because it's like, oh, you're waiting for your Seraphine to
Yeah.
sort of scale into the late game. I'll just stop the shielding and kill her the second she tries to shield herself. So this is actually huge from Backland, pivoting straight into the Shadow Flame instead of going for something like maybe a Death Cap that, yes, could have been more lethal against champions like the Viego. But right here, again, MNM are trying to make a pick.
They're looking for it, looking for Backland. The hook's gonna come in. They've got a good slow field. There's the death charge. Everybody's knocked up. Den Voxy flashes forward. Chemera coming in as well as he has everything thrown down. A juicy kill picked up. Chemera survives with a 13 HP getaway. Oh, MNM. It could have been so much worse, but it is still pretty tragic as the Baron is going to get started up by Dusty. And MNM are just running out of options right now.
That was enough. You don't have to kill them, you just have to push them away. You just take Soft out of the equation so he just cannot jump into the pit and then maybe give his team, you know, another 5 minutes of breath, having that Baron. But 20 minutes into the game, 11,000 gold lead for Dusty, 1 dragon off of Soul, Baroned up. Kerber's meanwhile taking the entire jungle, applying insult to injury, pushing mid lane, pushing bot lane. Kerber's has been an absolute nuisance on the side lane. But watching this again, I think it's good that MNM are actually trying to look for a play, but you do not have Aatrox with you. And look what Backland does. He will find Soft first, then Soft takes the knock-up back into his team, knocking up everyone else, which means that Linkus then can follow up with his own ultimate and triple knock-up every single one of them. Chemera was very lucky to get away with his life there.
Yeah, very, very lucky. We're only 21 minutes into this game, coming up on that 22-minute mark. Baron pretty much on spawn for the side of Dusty. They've got pressure in every lane right now. They've got gold leads, they've got item leads, they've got everything they need to close this game out. Soul's coming up in 5 seconds. It's not the most impactful Soul,
Exactly,
so
that's the reason they haven't really bothered to take this, right? They have 3 lanes pushing, double wave stacking in the top side of the map, which will be bound up, I am assuming. 1 player moving towards there. There is wave in the bottom side of the map, but there's also Backland, so you definitely don't want to be around a 15-level LeBlanc, and then the rest of Dusty is pushing through the mid side. Oh my God!
My word! Where did he go? He just evaporated. Dusty, they play around Backland
Okay.
every time, and it
Backland-
comes up huge.
Buckland is making a case for solo kills right here, so we need to redo the entire map of the solo kills to see how close after this game he is to MNS.
I think it's do or die for MNM. They need to push up, but only the clone gets taunted from Shredder. They've got that Encore up and available. Chemera's up in 12 seconds time, but the base is in shambles. MNM need to find some kind of an opportunity. The flash forward, the Encore goes through the goalpost. It hits nothing, and that might just spell absolute disaster for the side of MNM. Backland will finish up the final inhibitors. The hook comes in, and the team fight breaks out. Everybody's knocked up by the death charge, and already MNM are just squashed. Members falling left, right, and center. Soft down, Chemera back up, but the base is in tatters as Dusty will push forward to try and close this game out to make another loss added to the book of MNM for their summer split. As they will back off for now, they're going to go get themselves the reset, the soul, and then look to close this game out.
Remember how MNM lose games. You give away a bunch of your gold leads for no reason, you give away a bunch of your bounties for no reason, and then your team, the opponent team suddenly has 2 to 2.5 items from where they had 1, and they can actually maybe turn fights around. So very important for Dusty right here to know where the limits are. They're going to leave 1 Nexus Tower up, just for good measure. There's going to be double super minions running into MNM's base from literally everywhere, and Dusty might collect their soul here just to pad some stats, but so far, I'm just gonna say it, I don't think I'm gonna jinx it. It's an unlosable game for Dusty. Look at that LeBlanc, 24 stack Magi's, almost as a death cap, 7, 1, and 4. Only 3 kills being able to be acquired from the side of MNM. And yes, they're on crucial members like Viego, Aatrox, and Victor, but these guys have not come together as a 5-man core unit, as a full team, to try and show us how good a kiting composition should look like.
Well, Denvoxy, he has done the Dragon for the team. There might be an opportunity, or Denvoxy's not about to find a kill. As Backline does actually eat a little bit of damage, but is able to dash away with that distortion. The World End has been thrown down by Caitlyn as well, just to force them out. But that turret is half HP, and Linkus is waiting for the moment to go. Monkey spin. Curb about to gnaw out as well, so this could be pretty scary. Looking to jump forward, everyone's going out. Curb's caught out. They get the Encore off, but Backline is untouched. The Nexus has been exposed. Galio up. Galio goes down. Galio on his own as Shredder is caught out, and he will fall. Dusty still have Denvoxy slightly healthy, but he has to be a little bit careful as he's going to have to throw the stopwatch down, but the Nexus will fall. 25 minutes on the clock, and Dusty make it look easy.
And it was a little bit of a fiesta at that moment at the end. Before 2 kills went down over to MNM, they had 3. Might I remind you the last time these 2 teams played, which was the first day of our summer split, only Kerberos died once. That was all MNM could take. Now they take 5 kills, but it's just not enough because the last 2 were just about as their Nexus was falling. And Dusty, yet again, they played defensively versus MNM the first time. They play aggressively. It works just as fine.
Yeah, it's interesting how they can play 2 sides of the coin. They get, like you're saying, they play the first time they played the defensive team. This time they play the dive-heavy team. They play around Backland. Backland sets them up, and they just look absolutely
Backland's the
beautiful.
blank, man. What can I say?
It was just perfect execution. That was the best way to word it. Absolutely amazing game coming out there from Dusty as MNM fall yet again, but we're going to let our analyst desk break this game down. So over to you, Archer.
Thank you so much. On one side, great execution. On the other one, we have to talk about the anti-dive when you're the one forcing the dives as well at the beginning of the game.
Now, I know, in the pre-show, I talked about MNM and how I thought they could make a late run towards playoffs. And obviously this makes it difficult for them, losing another game when they need to make up so many onto that pack, which is tied up for 4th into that 6th spot. But one of the reasons I thought that they could do it is because I thought they're actually very intelligent through the split. They understood how they wanted to play the compositions, and they could at least try and fix that execution. This was really not it, though. This was a game where they should have very obviously known you don't want to be fighting early. You would even talk about yourself.
Yes.
You want to be safe in your lanes. You want to be scaling up. And they chose to brawl, and they throw away that lead, and they this foundation of being at least strong enough to deal with you diving into us completely crumbled.
I don't understand what exactly they were doing with this composition. I expected them to have safe laning. Just wait a little bit. You scale. It's okay, guys. You scale. No, you don't scale if you get the enemy LeBlanc just so far ahead versus you. And one question I had for Dusty actually for this game was, would they have enough early aggression? Would they be able to shut down this composition and not let them scale up? This is exactly what happened. There was just, I don't think there was an opportunity for this scaling team to actually find a way to farm up safely.
And often we find ourselves talking about specific mid laners, and usually we forget about backlands. And we know if this guy has access to any sort of kills while playing assassins, well, this happens.
I have to say, you know, of all the mid laners to have a week like this, Backland was one which, I mean, okay, I've actually said this multiple times on broadcast. Backland at the start of the year didn't necessarily crop up on my radar, but continually started to really slap me in the face and say, hey, I'm here.
Hello.
This is the best week from a mid laner I might have seen in the NLC this year, specifically on an individual level. The Yasuo on Monday was incredible. The LeBlanc today was basically winning the game by themselves, snowballing early, and yeah, it did die that one time just before that clip comes off, but they built the book. Now, I'm a Magi's librarian myself. I love this item. It is so good to see someone notice that they have the power to snowball in their own hands. They get the Sork Pen boots, they get Ludens, they get Magi's, and that is an incredible amount of early Magic Pen, which you don't see in pretty much any other build. You get high AP, you get high Magic penetration very early on, and no one on that enemy team could stand up to that. It's an incredible snowball, and Backland really putting themselves out there confidently to carry this game.
We are discussing the hyper carry potential for MNM, but it happened on the other side of the map. This LeBlanc was the hyper carry we were expecting from the different team, but still, and I'm very happy to see this performance of Backland, to be honest. I feel like this is the player that you need to have your eyes set on right now, because he feels just so strong, especially if he's given these early opportunities to start snowballing from early on.
And Dusty destroyed today MNM. That is the word that we need to take in. So we need to talk with one of them. It is Stend, the support for Dusty. Hello, welcome back to the show. Well, this was menacing.
What, sorry?
This was menacing. You guys need to chill a little bit. No, that was a good game for Dusty, a good start on the second half of the split. How are you feeling about this one?
Actually, I feel really good. I think we played really clean. We managed to snowball really hard. Like, we never stopped to play aggressive during the whole game. So yeah, I'm really happy.
Okay, I need to talk to you about the champion select. You guys picked a really, really good team to dive, but you see a Seraphine, you see a Viego, you see Galio as well. What are you worried about an anti-dive team versus you guys?
Actually, not really. We just we stick to the comp. Like, we wanted to have a comp that synergized well together. Like, we multiple flanks. Like, they wanted to scale and play front to back and team fights, but we had so many priors in early games, so we could invade Viego really easily. And with LeBlanc putting pressure everywhere, killing everyone. So yeah, I'm happy about the draft.
So this game was obviously really good for like confidence reasons and a whole lot of others. I think the game on Monday means an awful lot to your team based on what we've been seeing, though, because that's the first victory that you had against, you know, one of the upper table opposition in Astralis, right? So seeing this kind of like move away from actually, you know, succeeding against the lower teams, but then maybe not necessarily having the same success against the upper ones, do you see yourself developing as the split goes on? And how high do you see this team getting on the trajectory that you're going on?
I think this team is for sure scaling really well. Like, we screamed a lot to be more rigorous, like about tempo, etc. Like, we were throwing a lot of games during the splits, and the work is paying off. And I'm sure that we will do really great during the next of the split, the rest of the splits.
So what I'm hearing is you're going to beat JDXL, right? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, of course. That's the objective.
I like how the objective now is to take JDXL down from the undefeated spot. And if I may take advantage of what you brought in, the idea of the standings.
Just because it's you.
Thank you. I would like for you to tell me, where do you see Dusty getting a spot for playoffs? Everybody's saying, okay, at least let's get to the 6th spot. We just need to be in playoffs. We can work ourselves on the best of 5. But where do you see Dusty ending up this split?
I think first place will be almost impossible since they are 9-0. The 3rd place is for sure doable. And 2nd place, I think it's doable as well, but it will be hard. We just have to win every games. But I see us finishing 2 or 3 during the end of the split.
3rd place allows you to pick the opponent, so let's see if you can get that one. That would be interesting for you guys. Good job on this game, and good luck on the next one. Have a nice one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh yeah, the wave.
He wave, you guys.
Sorry,
Ah,
I'm just my head's in the game. I'm thinking about wow, playoffs. Waving it's an important thing actually I'm missing. I'm sorry. I'd like to apologize to both of you.
you didn't do it as well. I was watching you, Solari.
Oh, she did.
She did?
I did.
Apparently I wasn't. Dusty really confident about the way they played, about the composition as well. I was really confused about, was it MNM allowing you to use your comp, or were you guys forcing MNM to stay out of the turtle shell?
I don't think you should have a brawl that early into a mid jungle like that. I think once your top side falls away like that, I mean, you've got a Seraphine in bot lane that's not going to be popping off and like being the real rock of your composition. You can't skirmish around that. You need to be able to skirmish around something like a strong Viego that can turn up and like turn around a fight. Once that's out of the window, when you're 0-3 in support and on jungle, it's really, really hard to fight around. So while I think that the game would have been a lot more even if it hadn't had that early game brawling, I feel like to me that was the real killer.
Okay, let's make that question to Chemera, who played Victor on this game. Welcome back to the show, Chemera. It was a rough one. Obviously, it was not the result you were looking for, but I don't know if you were listening to Chimera, the way he was talking about. Let's talk about the compositions where you brought in the anti-dive, and it seemed like you guys went out of the shell way too soon before you were able to fight Dusty.
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard the end of it where obviously we have we're fighting with like our mid jungle and enemy mid jungle, and honestly the game is really difficult once we kind of mess up early. I think we had a window to come back into the game where we punished LeBlanc on mids for kind of overstaying, and I think instead of using that to slow the game down, like sorting waves out, or even I mean Seraphine can just come to Drake and maybe we can get the Drake and then just get out quicker. Like both of those are fine, but we kind of played in the middle and didn't do either, and waves are bad, and then we died, and then the game's really difficult from there. So I'm not sure. I don't think we're really playing the win conditions of our comps particularly well the past few games. So I'm not quite sure what else to say.
I think that's something that we kind of picked up on a little bit over here as well. It seems like it's not quite, he's trying to fit the square peg in the round hole or whatever. But one thing which I'm really interested in, because obviously you're actually, very intelligent at this game, just from the way you're speaking, you're very aware of a lot of these facts. What's the conversation like, the communication in the team and with staff after these kind of games? Because there is a lot of information to dig into. What's the MNM strategy for coming away from this and learning from it?
Honestly, it's kind of just getting to grips with ourselves in terms of the way we are looking at the game and practicing, because I think right now we're having a little bit of a, identity issue in terms of how we play. Either we're forcing a lot of, this heavy aggression, this Nautilus, winning mid-jungle 2v2 and playing really hard, but then we're also playing, this where it's complete opposite, where we're trying to go full scaling and maybe give the first 2 Drakes and play on 2 items. But then the problem I think we have is sometimes we will play this, but then we'll still play the heavy, aggression style where we're looking to sneak these leads early here and there rather than maybe taking a small L, but scaling into the game. So for me, like after this game, we're kind of, it was a bit of a roller coaster, a bit of a stomp.
Mainly down, yeah.
Yeah, so there's not much I feel like to take away from this in terms of, you can obviously, there's always things to learn, but from this game, the game's kind of over once LeBlanc gets ahead and we all die at Drake. It's really difficult for us to play unless they make a mistake. So I think we just have to start understanding the win conditions of our champs and how we want to play, the first 2 pathings and what it should look like.
Okay, you brought in 2 topics that to me are the highlight of this conversation. No, it was not you. It was him, by the way. It's not you, okay?
No, I was looking at the camera angle.
Okay. It's the fact that you were talking about execution of compositions that you bring into the Champion Select and the way that you guys deal with the defeat after you guys get a lead and you're not able to finish it. My question to you is, obviously, those things can be fixed. The knowledge is there, the team composition as well. You guys have the skill. Do you believe that is able to be fixed before the split is over and you guys can get access to the 6th place for playoffs? Or do you see a world where MNM will not be able to make playoffs? It is a
there's always a world where we can't make it, and there's always a world where we can. I think individually, like all 5 of us are like gifted in some way, and I think everyone in the team, when they're playing their best, is for sure playoffs contender and a good teammate. And I still believe that the way truly do believe the way that we see the game is good, and the way and like the knowledge we have, we understand it to a high level. But and a lot of that's when it comes to mid game. But the problem is we're having so many of these mistakes where we'll just mess up our comp early that even in scrims, the way we practice, we'll do the same mistakes, and it means we're not getting to this mid game enough, so we can't put these into practice. And I think it just comes down to the discipline from all of us individually. Like, how badly do we want this? And I think all of us would say that we want this really badly, and we want to put the effort and time and work for it. So if this is true, then we just have to be better with our practice. And it's these like suck, these losses. Fortunately, we do have quite good resilience mentally, and I truly believe we can bounce back. But it's obviously going to be, it needs to be wins from now on every game.
Only time will tell, but thank you so much for this
Very
interview. You
insightful
brought
answers.
a lot into this interview, so thank you so much. Good luck on the
Thanks.
next game, and let's see if the scrims will be able to bring you back into what MNM is capable of doing. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
Have a nice one. He did wave, don't worry.
That was actually a very
Really
interesting-
insightful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And again, like you can tell the intelligence that this guy's got, that the team's got, and again, immediately pinpointing, okay, win conditions, problem, maybe there's some problems in terms of like the discipline going into that practice, immediately aware of all this stuff. And so many teams, even at this level, wouldn't even be aware of that. That's already a step. It's so hard to overcome them, but that's already an important step.
And obviously, after the loss, your head is a little bit boiled, and having the reason to just look into it and understanding what the issue is brings a lot into the table. I think this interview was really, really good. Also, to get to know the player the way you brought in as well. Now, let's look at how the standings are right now with the first game of the second half of the summer split. If you look, there you go, Dusty, jumping into 4th place, and every single W that these top 6 teams bring into the table will solidify where they can go to playoffs or not.
Dusty is looking so dangerous right now to the top teams in this tournament board. All of a sudden, we used to look at them just as the gatekeeper, but now actually they are a very solid contender to get to one of the first places if they just manage to keep up with what they're doing right now.
I think the one issue with that is going to be, because like they've shown really good snowballing, there is going to be a break point where they're against a team that is just bluntly good enough to not be snowballed on, and then it comes into a bit more of an even fist fight. I'm really interested to see how they deal with the Riddle, who have had occasionally their early game issues, because that's actually playing into Dusty's strengths, and it's like, okay, well, maybe Riddle went for a play they probably shouldn't have. Dusty picks that up. What happens at that point when we see like one team which is very coherent at snowball and one team which will just outplay you to high heavens in the mid game? That matchup to me now, that's the one to watch later into the split.